Hey, I'm Chris Januszewski, and welcome to the Rebellious Times Podcast, Austin Founder Series. Today, I'm excited to have Ryan LaTorre here. He is the founder of Onira, and the episode name is Vibe Coding in the Subconscious. So we've got a vibe coder on the show. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for joining. So we met at the Fiesta Community Christmas or holiday party, should I say, last year. You told me about your startup. Really love what you're doing. It's so cool and it's so different. So please tell us a bit out of the gate. Tell us about Oneira. Tell us what you do with Oneira, what problem you're solving.
Sure. So Onira is a B2C platform for dreams. And the mission of the company is really giving people deeper ways to engage with their dreams and also give them a place to store their dreams over the course of ideally an entire lifetime.
That is amazing. When you first told me that, I was like, wow, this is, first thing I thought is, okay, are you plugging in some sort of Neuralink lattice device onto the brain, or how does it work? How are we helping people make sense of their dreams?
Yeah. So a basic use case for a new user is you would log your dreams through either typing or voice recording each day when you wake up or each day that you have a dream. And then from there, you can engage in a number of different activities with that dream entry in the platform. So whether that's chatting with AI to do an interpretation or visualizing through imagery and creating artwork of your dreams or some other more long-term features that I'm sure we'll dive into at some point. But the idea being that like, I want people to wake up from a dream feeling really excited and thinking like, now I get to go engage with this in Onira and it doesn't have to fade away. 10 minutes after you wake up, you can actually turn that content into a lasting artifact.
Fantastic. You know that our dreams are a whole different world, right? We sleep every night. I don't know if we dream every night. We definitely don't remember our dreams every night. But um, yeah, I think there's something kind of scientifically that we don't understand about dreams. Are we still in the same consciousness we're in when we're in the physical world? Are we going to some other conscious? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting questions to ask about the mysteries of dreams.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's such a mysterious topic and yet it impacts everyone. Like most everyone has dreams. And I think many people are curious about more within their dreams and experiencing them in ways that don't fade away right after they wake up. Um, so I'm obviously very curious to learn more about that too. I think that there's so much there that is yet to be explored, and there haven't been, to my knowledge, a lot of tech platforms trying to address this. So that's what really inspired me to go all in on the space.
So it sounds like you sound really incredible. So let's roll back a little bit. How did you decide to start your own business? What were you doing before? What's your background?
Yes, I was always a creative person. I think that largely started with music for me. Like I grew up playing instruments, guitar mostly, and then got very invested in music production technology. And so was very into the music production side of things. Wanted to potentially do that while I was younger, and then ended up veering into music AI technology as sort of like what bridged the gap for me getting involved in AI was the music technology. So I worked at a small startup that was making music production software with AI with some really incredible people that I learned a ton from and was very grateful to be there. Um, and just learned a lot about like, what does it look like to be at a company with 5 people and, what sort of challenges are faced in that type of environment. And I loved it. I just thought it was very intoxicating and exciting, and I knew that I wanted to probably branch out and build my own thing eventually. Um, and so after that smaller startup was acquired by a slightly larger one, and then I worked at that one for a bit as well, but ultimately decided that with the rise of vibe coding and how much was possible with it, I finally felt, I guess, ready, even though you never really feel ready, you kind of has to just jump in. But I felt like ready to build my own thing and go all in on it.
Fantastic. So tell me what vibe coding means to you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get really excited when I think about what it is because it's just so much possibility, and I think it's bridging the gap between knowing how you want an app or a software to function without actually having to write the literal code line by line yourself. So with a more general understanding of how software works, you can basically build anything you want within reason, and you're no longer forced to understand things like exact syntax of code or exact line by line precision of code because the AI just works for you and you can communicate with it as to what you want.
Fantastic. And what sort of stack do you use?
Yeah, I use a platform called Lovable. Lovable.dev is their link. It's truly incredible. I'm very grateful that it exists. I think that with all of the things that they offer you, it's pretty streamlined to put together your own platform yourself, and they really do an incredible job of giving you the opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. And as you're building, are you building everything yourself? Do you require sometimes to kind of pull in other devs on certain aspects, or can you literally do everything yourself within the platform?
I do everything myself as of today. I think I don't necessarily intend to keep it that way forever. I think there are like scenarios where I think in the future it would be nice to have more specialized talent working on specialized areas. But right now, it's been everything has been me up to this point.
Fantastic. And is this something where you're still designing the product, or are you actually live with customers?
Yeah, it's live with customers. So it's been sort of live and building in tandem together the whole way through. So I think the initial version that went live in probably October, November was looking back on it now was like, not the experience that I would have wanted, but I think that's part of how you improve is putting something out and then iterating based on how people are engaging with it. Where are they tripping up and having trouble? And then how can I build something new to like address those challenges and also build new things that people are excited about?
It's really interesting. So you found some customers are interested in what you're doing. Is it a paid service at the moment?
It is. So it's a freemium. So like you have abilities to engage with no payment, and then as you run up more of your credits balance with the AI features, it ends up becoming a paid service. But it is fully accessible for free, and then once you run up your balance, it turns into a paid subscription.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks. And I think the first thing that springs to mind here is that, okay, I would love to know. I don't dream that often, but when I have had dreams, I would love to know kind of what they mean. Sometimes they seem very symbolic. Um, so I could go and put my dreams, I could go and type into Chat GPT, for example, and say, hey, what does this dream mean? It'll probably give me some response back that kind of made sense and tallied up with other things that have been written on Google. Um, Obviously you're using some sort of LLMs at some points within your workflow, but how does your solution kind of build on the technology that's available now to help us manage these decisions and pull the inputs and to make sense of what somebody has put into the LLM?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's a common question, like why does it differentiate from just talking to ChatGPT, which is a big focus and has been the whole way through of like, I initially was inspired to do this because of chatting with ChatGPT about things like this. So I wanted to build on top of that experience. And so what that looks like is when you're chatting, the experience just gathers context about your dream history specifically over time, gives you more insights into the patterns that are emerging, more about themes that are recurring for you. Then, of course, there's other capabilities in the platform, like not just chat. Like chat is sort of one of three legs of the stool, kind of like I like to say. Like there's the chat, there's the more imagery focused stuff, and then we do like a 3D dream universe, which is a bit hard to describe in words, but would love to show it to you another time. And so it's really focused around like this narrative of being a home for your dreams is something I've been leaning into lately for messaging, rather than like I don't want it to be the place where you go for like a one-off dream interpretation, but you consider it an ongoing relationship of like, if I have a dream, I know exactly where I'm going to go.
So interesting. Do you have a lot of feedback from your users on specific dream cases, I guess you might call them, and kind of how they're using the system and what it means to them over time?
Yeah, I've heard some really encouraging um, feedback around like self-reflection, and I think some folks who are curious about the patterns emerging in their dreams and how they connect to what's happening in their daily life. And I'm no scientist, but there's a fantastic podcast with on the Huberman podcast with a guy named Matthew Walker who talks all about dreams. He's like a sleep and dream scientist, which is fascinating. And he had said basically like in many cases that dreams can act as a sort of overnight therapy for our brains to process a lot of the emotions that we're going through and may not take time to reflect on while we're awake. And then while we're asleep, it ends up just appearing in our dreams. So I think for the folks who are interested in reflecting more deeply on what those things might mean, Onira has proven to be useful for them so far and hope to continue building on that.
Fantastic. Love it. Love it. And obviously we're in the Austin, recording an episode for the Austin series with the Rebellious Times podcast here. Love to hear a little bit about your experience of Austin and the Austin entrepreneur scene.
Yeah, I love it. I'm very happy to be in Austin. I've been here a little over 3 years. And I think that one, the weather's a lot better from where I moved from, which was in the Northeast. And it is it's a culture that I find to be like very accepting of being different. And like, of course, the motto of like, keep Austin weird is what they say. And I think that is very true. Like people tend to live by that, and like being a bit weird or a bit out there, like coming up with these wacky ideas is not um, considered unusual here. It's sort of something that's exciting for a lot of people, and I've loved to meet some other folks doing similar like strange ideas and encouraging each other. It's a very encouraging culture here as well. I think like at places like around the city, there's lots of builders doing exciting things and really lifting each other up.
Yeah, yeah. I have the same experience myself. I believe there's an event on next month at the Capital Factory again, I think. So those are always interesting. Always so many fantastic concepts there and interesting people you meet.
For sure, yeah, I definitely agree, and it was great to get out to more of those. And of course, I met you at one of those, which was great. So it's always really cool to meet and come across some people working on interesting stuff.
Love it. Well, Ryan, it's been fantastic having you on. Loved hearing about your story there and about Oneira. If somebody wants to find Oneira, obviously, it's it might help for you to spell it out to access your domain, and if they want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So it's onira.dev. It's Oneira.dev. I would love for anyone to try it out, and feel free to contact me at ryan@onira.dev or on LinkedIn, whatever. Would love to talk about feedback or just talk about any wacky ideas that anyone's working on in Austin or elsewhere.
Love it. Fantastic, Ryan. Thanks for keeping it weird in Austin. All the best with Oneira, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.